Hello, everyone, and
Hello.
hello, and welcome to our last podcast for this year.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year will probably be.
And a Happy New Year.
Oh wow! Can't believe it. The 1 year. It's so fast this year.
It has been fast.
Yes. How was your year? Was it fast or was it slow?
めっちゃ早かった。
Mecha
早かった。
Hey, mecha, that's onomatopoeia.
あ、めちゃめちゃ早い。
Yes, it's been like January felt like yesterday, and I can't believe it's the end of the year. You know, so many things have happened that I really just wow, super fast. Well, anyway, thank you very much for watching our podcast. You know, we can see the numbers are rising a little bit. You know, so we're doing a little by little, step by step, baby steps.
よちよち歩き。
Yes, baby steps, and we're getting there. Today, we're going to do another one of mostly true.
It's definitely mostly true today.
Yes, definitely mostly true. And, you know, again, it's zatsudan.
はい。
We just do that all the time, you know. And how do we do this? This is something that you need to know. You see, we have lunch, and just before our other work, we have like 20-30 minutes of
忙しい。
yes a recording.
Yep.
So
This is natural. Natural, ad-lib, mostly true
そうだね。
podcast.
そうだね。
yeah, we do, I don't think we ever prepared anything.
This is unscripted.
No scripts.
Unscripted.
No scripts, no plans. We just sit in front of the camera right over there with our microphones, and we just talk about things. And thank you for listening, you know. Yes.
We hope that our smooth voices are helping you relax after work.
確かに。
Well, Nick has a very smooth voice, but I don't think my voice is going to soothe you.
寝れないかもしれない。
That's the thing. Anyway, so we talked about it with Nick and Yumi, and I'm like, okay, so what we're going to do about this podcast, it's usually ad-lib, but, you know, we need to have at least of a topic, yeah. So Yumi kind of mentioned the differences between reading the air or reading between the air with between Japanese, how they read between the air.
Well, in English we say read between the lines.
True. Oh my God. Yes.
I think you've been in Japan too long.
Why am I using air all the time? This is disgusting. Okay. No, so sorry. You know, it should be reading between
Well,
the
that's
lines.
okay because we always have the safety net of mostly true.
True.
確かに。
So
So even my English is mostly true.
yeah,
Yes. Nick's English is more mostly true than mine.
but not true.
Yeah? Not true.
No.
No.
It's mostly.
No, mostly true. So read between the lines or read the air in Japanese, right? 空気を読む。
え、外国人も空気読むの？
Well, I think everybody everywhere has to read between the lines or you know try to understand unspoken
そっ
you know
か。
feelings.
確かに。
It's just a very natural you know human ability or skill, I suppose. But what we're talking about today is that in Japan the communication style is such that reading between the lines or kuki o yomu is much more important and needed than other cultures that are more direct.
Oh, that's true. That's true because the Japanese have developed that style of communication of what is known as anmokuchi, reading or understanding without communicating,
だって目も合わないからね。
and no eye contact.
でしょ？すごくない？目が合わないのに。
No eye contact. You know, this is something that I've never understood. How is it possible, for example, for us non-Japanese, you know, not communicating, not expressing our feelings, not expressing our thoughts, and, you know, expecting to be understood. Like Nick, for example, if Nick and I had some kind of an argument, okay, what would be the common thing? The common thing in Japan would be people to shut up, right? And try to
Send an email.
Or a text message online.
Yeah.
Sorry, like with like lots of sorry,
Well, I think Japanese people would more likely not talk as their first reaction to a disagreement or feeling upset.
So when you disagree or you feel upset, Yumi, do you talk?
喋んないかもしれないね。
And then somehow magically everybody's in agreement and everybody's okay. That's something that I never was never able to
Is it the old phrase that time heals all wounds?
Time heals all wounds. Now that's a nice English expression. It means if you leave it and after some time you don't feel upset anymore.
If you wait long enough.
If you wait long enough, like you cool down and what you initially, your emotions were, are no longer there after a certain period of time. Yes.
Well, that's actually not a bad first reaction, honestly.
And it should be like that. Yeah.
As a HR manager, that's what I would recommend. I don't always do it myself, but I would recommend if you're in a disagreement to have some separation first before you meet together to discuss what's going on.
Jumping, now we have another English expression, jumping into conclusions.
Jumping to conclusions.
Or jumping to conclusions, right?
Conclusion.
Jumping to conclusions. It means, like without taking all the facts into consideration, you make a decision based on your current emotion.
Do you remember another phrase? Assumption is the root of all evil? Or
Exactly.
Something like that?
Well, now,
Maybe?
okay, assumption is the root of all evil.
I think, is that right?
So
It sounds right.
no,
doesn't
it is correct. Assumption, to assume, means to think. Like to think without having the right facts and the right information, and then you come to a conclusion that is not.
I think it's the money is the root of all evil, and assumption is the mother of all evil.
Assumption was the mother, and the money is the root.
I think, or something like
true.
that.
Okay.
It's mostly true.
Money is the root of all evil. Now that I know. Assumption, anyway. Assumption.
It's pretty bad.
Means to assume or to think that something is right without taking into consideration all the possible facts, and then make a conclusion that is based not on facts but based on your current state of mind.
And bias,
And your
stereotypes,
bias.
stereotypes, bias, ignorance.
True.
Big words. Sorry, everybody.
True.
But
Yes. For example, like things that would make you feel angry. If I, for example, if we have a meeting and let's say the meeting is at 10 p.m. or let's make it 10 p.m. is too late, 10 a.m. in the morning, for example. And then Yumi comes at 9:50, 9:55, but Mario comes in 10:15 or 10:20. Would you be upset if I were late? What would your reaction be? Like.
でもそんなに怒んないかも。大丈夫って思っちゃうかも。
I see.
15 minutes is not too bad.
Not big problem.
Not too bad. What if it's 30 minutes or 40 minutes?
他に後でやらないといけないことがあるんだったらちょっとってなるかもしれない。
There you go. So 他にやることねやらないといけないからやっぱり自分のスケジュールがあるから。
そう。
I have my own schedule. So like originally we were supposed to meet at 10 a.m. But you came at 10:30, which means I have another appointment or another promise that I've made from 11:30, and I'm not going to be able to, keep that promise, right? And so what would be your thinking about me, that I am what? So what would be the initial thinking of me? what would you think of me? Oh, Mario doesn't care about my time, or what would it be? Nick, you, me.
Well, it depends how well you know the person, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, because remember, assumption is bad, right? Having a guess without any evidence is always risky, dangerous. So the closer you are with someone, the more you know about them, you know their schedule, you know what's going on in their lives, so you can have more conclusions based on fact rather than just guessing. But if you don't know somebody and they're 40, 50 minutes late, well, they're breaking some kind of social
norm
or social taboo, where if it's the first meeting with someone, don't be late.
Yeah, I understand. But then again, what if the person really, it was not his or her fault, for example. The trains were late and everything, and then you have a meeting from 11:30 and he sends you a message after 30, 40 minutes saying, sorry, something has happened. I'm sorry I'm not being able to be on time, but this is the first time you meet the person. So obviously your first impression of that person is like, okay, this guy does not control his or time. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Right? Yes.
Well, because our first instinct is to protect ourselves, right? That's a natural human instinct. We should defend ourselves. That keeps us alive. But it's not only about physical danger now. In our society, we don't have to fight for our food or, there's no major risks to our bodies. So now it's mental damage. So we want to protect ourselves. So, we immediately go into defense mode, right?
Defending ourselves.
Yeah, right. So I told him 11 o'clock. I'm sure I sent the email. I'm going to check my text messages. Here it is. Here's the text message I sent. You agreed to it. You said yes. You're the bad guy. You're the bad woman. I'm the good one.
So you make those assumptions, and then automatically that first impression of that person, it's negative. And no matter what happens afterwards, it's very difficult to erase that, right?
そうだね。消せないね。
It's really hard to do that.
It's
That's something that it's cross, not just, like in one culture, but I believe this is cross-cultural. This is all over the place.
Oh yeah, first impressions last. That's the famous expression.
That's
First impressions last. That's the famous English expression.
Yes. So back to that understanding without communicating. Yumi, how is that possible? I'm sorry, really, I cannot understand that yet. I'm trying to understand, but it's simply, how does that work? Yes, you're angry to a person, and you don't talk.
Maybe that's
ちょっと
enough.
あれかな、距離を置くかな。
距離を置く、そう。
そう、フィジカルにもメンタルにも。
Physical distance or mental?
Yeah.
And for how long? Forever?
One night?
And then the next day you're fine?
Yeah. Switch my emotion.
Yes, without communicating?
No.
No. I see. What if, for example, personally, I would prefer to communicate. If I see Nick sad, or if I see you sad, and obviously, it has to be something with me. Okay, so I need to know where is my mistake. So I would feel very uncomfortable not knowing what you know.
Yeah, I think generally our culture would be more similar to what you were describing.
Right?
やっぱり外国の人たちはそうだよね。
So for example, maybe you feel sad. I did something to you that I've never thought that my action would make you feel uncomfortable.
そうね。
Yes, and you don't want to talk about that with me because of what? You don't want to make me feel sad? Why wouldn't you talk to me?
Good question.
自分の中で解決する。
I see.
Does that mean you don't know your feelings, or
消す、私のエモーションを消す。
So whatever has happened has happened, and the way, because you're not communicating, you're not communicating for the reason that you want to forget that thing.
Oh, that's the
まあ
kissu.
ね、そう。
That you want to forget that feeling, and everything goes back to normality the next day, for example. I see.
め
You
っ
see?
ちゃ日本人はそんな感じだと思う。
I see. I see.
Well, isn't that the root of that is because the culture is about harmony and avoiding
Direct
conflict?
Yes, yes. Harmony has always been one of the most important aspects of Japanese culture there. You know, trying not to make the person feel unhappy, because if they engage into debate, you know, like that can create even more emotions, and they want to avoid all of that.
If we go on a wider scale then, because that's, I think that sometimes it puts Japanese business at a disadvantage when they are trying to expand themselves into other countries. Not all countries, because some countries have a similar culture and a belief in non-conflict negotiations, but if they are in countries with is it high context or low context that's direct? Direct is low context? Yeah, direct is low context. So if you're in a country that is low context, very direct communication, you could be at a disadvantage because you won't know how to respond during difficult debates.
And the silence itself, you know, like can be perceived or understood by the other party as an agreement.
Even worse, silence can be thought of as guilt.
Or guilt, depending on the topic.
Of course,
yeah,
of course,
depending on the topic
of course, of course.
Like, for example, you know, the word, the Japanese word of wakarimashita and hai, and the English word of yes, you know, there are completely different concepts right there. Yes is an affirmative,
そうなんだね。
where hi is nothing close to affirmative answer.
True. It's a very useful word.
Hi means just I'm listening to what you're saying, but I'm not actually agreeing nor disagreeing to what you're saying. But I'm just listening, and this is a signal for me telling you that yes, I'm actively listening to what you say. And by not providing any feedback on my comments or my opinion, personally, I believe majority of the Western culture would perceive that as a silent agreement to what the person have said. Like, for example, Yumi, we're going to go to Okinawa next year in January. You know, it's like, I'm planning to book a hotel. It's not a resort, but it's a business hotel. And Yumi doesn't like that, but Yumi continues listening to me, right? So your continuation and your silence, obviously, and your and yes and hi makes me believe that my plan is proof, it's solid, and you agree to it.
Yeah.
So this is how I would read between the lines.
なるほどね。
And then when Yumi, you know, like after I finish giving my plan or presenting my plan, and after you say, oh, well, actually, I want to go to a resort. And I was like, but why didn't you tell me that earlier? I already probably made the booking.
日本人以外の大多数の人はそこでリゾートがいいんだけどって言うってこと？
Well, I mean, again, we have to be careful about assumption. There's obviously variation within cultures too. But if we take a risk and we talk about generalizations or what's generally true for cultures, yeah, of course, those low context countries or cultures, I should say, they would be more expressive and more responsive during the communication.
That's right. That's right. For example, I would say, why did you choose, like, for example, why do you want business hotel? You know, have you ever did you search on any other, for example, websites about something, you know, like higher, like a 4-star hotel, you know? So there are many, depending on the culture, whether they will try to make a compromise, for example, of, okay, business hotel is not good, but obviously resort is too expensive. So, but I want to stay at a better hotel. So I'm trying to compromise with you to try to find a mutually kind of accepted place. Like, okay, not a resort, not a business hotel, but how about a 4-star hotel, for example? You know, that's called compromise. And there's something that I'll talk about it. Or I can stick to my guns. This is quite interesting. It means stick with my opinion. No, Yumi, you know, like business hotel is too, the rooms are too small. You know, I don't like it. I want a swimming pool. I want to go to resort. This is what I would probably say.
Yumi, do you think the reason why you don't respond more, or you don't you know, debate as much is because of the seniority, that kind of senpai kohai system that Japan has?
Yeah. 先輩から言われたら何も言えないよね。
Yeah, but that's basically like a collective collectivism or 集団主義 basically.
コレクティブなんていうの？
Collectivism.
コレクテリズム。
That's right. You know.
そうなんだ。
Yes, 3 of us. Nick is the senpai. We are the kohais. Nick likes, for example, Chinese food. You and I, we don't like Chinese food that much. And Nick says, hey guys, this year's Bonenkai, we'll go to a Chinese restaurant. And Yumi and I would have to agree.
Yeah.
Okay, regardless of how much we like or dislike Chinese food.
We have no choice.
We have no choice. Now that is something that it's quite very interesting. So the Japanese would probably sacrifice their own excitements, their own indulgences, and just go with what the senpai has said, or what, for example, in this case, you like Chinese, she likes Chinese, I don't like Chinese, but you both want to go to Chinese restaurant. I have no choice but to say yes.
Because of majority rule.
Because of majority wants to go to the Chinese. Now, in my culture, I would be like, guys, okay, you really like Chinese, I understand, but I'm sorry, I cannot eat Chinese. Okay, but it will be very selfish of me to say, let's go somewhere else. Okay, because I need to read between the lines. So I would say, why don't you guys go to have Chinese? I'm gonna eat McDonald's, and let's meet at the second party. I mean, that's the compromise.
Or probably the other two would try to find a mutually acceptable,
Yes.
you know, conclusion. So, oh yeah, that's right. Mario doesn't like Chinese. Hey, what about Indian? You know. Oh, okay. You know.
例えば日本、in Japan はどうする？例えば me and Nick, we like Chinese, でも you don't like Chinese。で、まあもちろん you go to Chinese restaurant がまあマジョリティかもしれない。でも、recently I'm seeing younger generation say, あ、ごめんなさい、私ちょっと I cannot eat Chinese food ってなる時に、what do you expect from Nick and I to choose another restaurant? To propose something else? What would you like to happen?
本当に食べれなかったら、ごめんなさい、私ちょっと例えば辛いものが食べれないので、他のチョイスはありますかとか、なんか明確な理由があればはっきり言えるけど、just like feeling だったらなんか行きたくない気持ちだけで言うことはできない。
じゃあ例えば OK 本当に明確 you have a very clear reason why not to go to Chinese restaurant. So what would be your expectations from us? What would you like us to do?
すいません。
Propose another place? What would you want us to do? but you cannot say it, right? Because you don't say that way. Sorry, 私はちょっと I cannot eat Japanese, Chinese food なので、そこで再提案するか、Are you going to counter propose か、私たちに任せて、判断を任せる、どっち？再提案するか、また、
再提案もしよければここに行きませんかっていうのは言うかな、提案するかな、かもう2人で行ってください言うんじゃない？
I see.
でもはっきり言った方がいいよね。
いや、ぜひ。
そう、それでさ、すごいストレスともになってさ、
You know, if you say to me, ちょっと私はじゃあ2人で行ってください。Please go by yourselves. You know, maybe, you know, if we don't ask, if we don't continue the conversation, you know, like I might think that, oh, maybe Yumi doesn't want to eat with us.
ああ、そう。
Okay? It can lead to many branches of possible conclusions. Okay?
That's right.
Without having said why you don't want to go.
True.
Right?
Yes.
I mean, it could be mostly true, but generally, yes. If you come to me and say, "Listen, Mario, I mean, I like Chinese food, but this Chinese restaurant offers only spicy food, and majority of the food is spicy." You know, like Nick always does that. You know, and every time when I ask him to go and have lunch, Nick would say, "Where are we going?" Here, and he was like, but that restaurant I don't have much choices there. Okay. And then my case, because we're friends, I try to, you know, like find a mutually acceptable solution. You know, I cannot say, okay, Nick, I'm going to just go eat myself because I really, really want to eat Chinese today. Okay. But there are cultures who would probably do that. Okay.
Yeah.
確かに。
And in that case, you know, like how would you react if you say, sorry, I cannot eat Chinese, but the guy says, or the person says, oh, really? Okay, well, listen, I really want to eat Chinese, so next time let's have lunch together. Today, I'm going to eat Chinese, you go and eat what you want. So how do you feel if that situation happens? How would you perceive that?
Depends on the relationship, I suppose.
True. If it's somebody you don't know, then it's probably the end there. Right?
Okay, but let's go back to the whole idea of this kind of the need for reading between the lines, right? So I was just trying to think back in my memories to when I was a young person, and I remember even when I had my part-time job in university, I would they were discussing where we would go for our Christmas party, and I was 19, 20 years old maybe, and I had no problem telling my choices to my boss, who was probably 40s at the time, so even from a young age in our culture, the individual, a lot of importance is put on the individual as opposed to the group. Now, of course, there's a balance. The group is important, but individual desire, individual beliefs are important. But I don't think that would happen in Japan. Not when you had a 19-year-old or 20-year-old and your 40-year-old boss, makes the plan to go to dinner. I'm not sure that a 19 or 20-year-old in Japan would feel so comfortable with saying, actually, no, I don't like that food.
If the boss has already decided on the place.
Or even when they're during the discussion and the boss makes a suggestion, maybe in Japan the person would be quicker to accept.
Yeah.
Yes, or would just don't go, I guess.
Maybe.
そうなの?
Possibly. Nowadays, like everything is.
でもさ、それで上司が何とも思わないのがいいよね。カルチャーは。私たちのカルチャーは、上の人が怒るかもしれないとか、ちょっと嫌われるかもしれないとか、それがベースにあって話さないといけないから。
But this is something that you assume, right? But you never ask.
そうだね。
So that's reading, trying to read between the lines.
We don't need to read between the lines as much because
そうなのよ。
we expect people to disagree or provide their own feelings, their own opinions.
嫌なものは嫌って言えるじゃん。私たちは言えない国だと思うから。
You know, through my living in Asia for many years, I've come to a conclusion that it is not always the truth. You see, Asian people, particularly Japanese, and I would even say Taiwanese, even Chinese and South Koreans, for example, these peoples they're very patient about many things.
With communication.
With communication.
Okay.
So for example, if he wants to go to eat Chinese, I would agree and I would go to eat Chinese with him. And I'll be patient until my time comes. And then I can propose that I want to eat Japanese food, for example. Right?
Yeah.
Isn't that the case? Because I have seen this many times. You know, the like, it's not like about how fast you get. You know, like it's about that patience, that the people are more patient. They will agree to everything, but then at the later stage, they will try to take everything that they have given to you. Does it make sense?
Yep.
Haven't you noticed this? You know, I've noticed that a lot, because if you say let's go Chinese and I agree with you, that means you owe me a favor. Next time when I say I want to go somewhere, you cannot say no. What do you think? I'm sorry. This is just my understanding of it. This is just my understanding. Would that?
私はどちらかというとはっきり言うから。
Well, that's Yumi, ね。
そう、日本人は困ってるかもしれないね。
でもどっかのタイミングで、
そうだね。
自分がやりたいことを
やれてない時があるかもしれない。
You understand?
Yeah.
だから羨ましいけどね。
Yeah, that's.
二人の国のカルチャーが。
It's the results are quicker. You know, like you feel less anxious because you know where we stand. You know our opinion. You know our many things you know about. You have the information.
You, as a Japanese person, do not want to be the reason for any conflict, right?
No.
That would make you feel very hazugashi, very embarrassed, and very upset, right? Whereas I think in our culture, a lot of people are more comfortable being the cause of a disagreement. Or not comfortable, but they don't really mind because they're trying to satisfy my needs.
Your individual needs.
And in our culture, that's considered to be okay. But not yet in Japan. I think Japan is changing too. The younger people, yes.
Our younger generation tend to be more open than the there is this. I can see this in many universities I visit, and even graduate schools, even in companies. When I talk to younger employees, you know, I can see that they have been brought up differently. I mean, at least I don't know if they've been brought up differently, but maybe it's the society and the environment that has changed, because now you have access to pretty much everything you want. That's something that they have developed by watching YouTube, by watching Netflix, by watching Amazon Prime, all the other platforms, Twitter, whatever it is, TikTok. You know, they get access to cultures that they have never ever encountered in Japan. And a human, you know, like our values are usually being adjusted based on the environment, based on the information we input on the daily basis. And hence creating this kind of a hybrid generation, maybe, no?
So actually, okay, let's say that people from low context cultures like America and Australia to a degree New Zealand and Britain and Canada. Europe, you know better than I do about because the Europeans, there's so many micro cultures. Well, not micro cultures, but you know what I mean. Like there's so many countries beside each other, but all of them are so different.
Yes.
But maybe the thing is we are not looking for signs, of if a person is upset or not. And this is not conscious, this is subconscious. Whereas Japanese, subconsciously, their mind is looking for things that can give them information about a person's feelings. Whereas we are not looking for it. Our brain is not trained that way. We are only looking for a verbal clue, a verbal hint about what someone's feeling. And if that doesn't come, then we ignore everything else. Whereas maybe you, when you're talking to me, you're much more aware of my tone of voice, how I'm sitting, the choice of words that I use to respond to you. And this is all subconscious. You're not thinking about it. It's just happening because automatically. Maybe that's what's happening in Japan, maybe.
That can be it, because of the honen tatemae culture. Trying to hide your emotions as much as possible. So, and then, but at the same time, now this is where it gets tricky. Okay, so you're trying to hide your emotions. You're trying to hide things that may potentially be dangerous or lead to a
conflict.
But at the same time, you are expecting the other person to understand you.
Subconsciously.
Okay, now that style of communication is highly advanced.
Very high.
Very highly advanced. So you are trying not to create a conflict. Okay, but at the same time, you're expecting me to understand you subconsciously. Okay, and that's a skill that, and I always believe, is that skill, how accurate that skill is.
I don't know. Hey, I was just thinking, from a language perspective, maybe there's a connection here, because in English, because we're so verbally orientated, we have a large selection of adverbs, fukushi, a large selection of adjectives, keiyoshi, to modify and adjust our descriptions of how we're feeling to give more information to the person, because they cannot get that information from anywhere else, only from here, only from my lips, right? I was teaching, for example, the other day, I was teaching possibility, which means chance, okay? And at the top of chance, you have a word such as, a fukushi such as definitely. I'm definitely coming, right? And at the bottom end, you have there's no chance, for example, right? And then you have probably, possibly, may, might, could. There's a small, there's a small chance. All of these options that I can use to tell you the likelihood, that the possibility of something happening. But in Japanese, I only usually hear tabun.
Just only tabun.
Most of the time.
Yeah.
Maybe you have other options, like maybe like zehi or zettai. But tabun or is pretty popular when discussing the future. Tabun.
Yes. Well, Japanese culture, I guess, is probably, they don't want to give 100% agreement because they're not sure of whether they can keep that promise. Right?
True. Yeah.
I mean, Japanese are very careful about making promises,
Yeah.
Because once they've made a promise, they know they have to follow that through. This kind of conversation comes from younger generation. But I've never heard a person in 40s or 50s to say 絶対行く.
Never.
言わないですよね。絶対行く it's a foreign culture that has been adopted by younger generation. いや、行きます. That's a promise. 行くかもしれない。
かもしれません。
Yes. 行くかもしれない。You know, like I may go. This is a possibility that the person, you know, like is kind of asking you for a choice. You know.
But how would you as a Japanese person understand that phrase? If someone says 行くかもしれない what's the percentage chance that they will go?
Low だよね。
Low
だよね。
行くかもしれない。
Is that like a 10% chance they will go to the?
かもしれない。Yeah, about
10%.
Yeah.
The chances are very low because if they really want to go with you, they would not say 行くかもしれない。
You see now, from my perspective, I would give that a much higher percentage, just from my culture. If someone says, "Oh, maybe," right? Maybe. Oh, okay. So there's like 50-50 chance. Oh, cool. Okay. So I'll call you tomorrow. Confirm again.
So that's exactly where that reading between the lines can occur.
Yeah.
Okay, this is exactly the expectations of Yumi saying 行くかもしれない and Nick accepting it as 50-50% chance. It has to be because 行くかもしれない is basically 50-50. And you're right. It is 50-50. But in what context was that said? It's something that we need to read between the lines.
面白い。
Right? No? In what context was that said? You know, like because Yumi doesn't want to say no directly to you.
I mean, in English we might in English we might vary the tone to adjust the percentage. So if I said maybe or maybe,
that's very low because of
then I'm giving. But again, this is verbal. This is a verbal cue. Okay. So I don't know if a Japanese person would do that the same thing. 行くかもしれない or 行くかもしれない. I don't know if they would do that.
No, I don't think they will say that because never used it. But that's the thing. You see, the ambiguity. その曖昧ね. It's where like majority of Japanese people live. That's their communication. The communication is basically 曖昧.
そうなの.
Okay. Nothing is certain.
そうなの.
Nothing is 100%.
そうなの.
And that's their life. Hence the stress is happening because they're not certain of what exactly is going to happen. But you know, and imagine living in that ambiguity all your life.
なんか発音もふわふわしてるしさ、
Right.
そのコミュニケーションも曖昧だしさ、日本人はだからそういうなんていうんだろう、空気を読むことがすごいって言われてるけど、根本のその発音とかさ、その会話の文章とかがもうちょっとイエスかノーかはっきりした方が、
そうです。That's right. There you
It's
go.
easy to live.
That's right. It's much easier to live and much easier to know what's going to happen, right? And then you can
know.
to know.
Yeah. ね。
To be prepared
Yeah.
at least, you know, like not live in some kind of expectation may or may not happen and continuously living in that in that world that leads to constant, you know, stress. It leads to that because that is the ambiguity that we probably but you know, another very interesting point is that, you know, people expect you to read between the lines. Okay. But how can I you know, like, and if my 空気を読む if I don't meet your expectations of 空気を読む then I become 空気を読めない type. Do you understand how selfish this is? I mean, その空気を読む what is the level? Is there some kind of criteria?
そうだね。
Probably, yeah.
空気を読むこの人は空気読まない。How do you expect people to read between the line on the same level as you do or as other person do? I mean, we are not born with same level, right?
そうなんだよね。
Now, this is something that I always felt like, oh, この人はね、空気読まないタイプなんです。その空気読まないタイプ can be 本当に like in many cases it can be like really like, for example, everybody decided to go in Chinese and the guy suddenly, you know, like, oh yeah, you know, like Thai food だよね。You know, like
You know, recently in our culture, there's something similar that Tokuku Yoman, I think. Not similar, but it has a definite connection to it, which is the EQ, the emotional quota, and how it's compared and different from IQ, which is the intelligence quota. Right? So now they're able to distinguish two different skill types. People who have the ability to read others, and people who have difficulty with reading others. And the way that you can improve your EQ is
not IQ.
Not EQ.
Not intelligence.
This is your emotional quota.
Emotional quota.
How you can improve that is by developing your empathy, which is not sympathy, which unfortunately in the dictionary in Japanese, empathy and sympathy have the same kanji, whereas actually they're quite different. Sympathy is a surface level understanding.
Actually, no, Nick, I'm sorry to interrupt, but dokan means sympathy, whereas empathy means kyokan.
Oh, great. Well, your dictionary is better than mine.
Kyokan means to understand the person's feelings.
So sympathy is, here's an example of sympathy. You say to me, oh, last night I couldn't sleep. Okay, you come to work. So, oh, you look tired, I couldn't sleep. Sympathy is, oh, that's too bad. Okay. Whereas empathy would be, oh, really? Wow, I think, yesterday, you worked really hard on the project. You didn't finish until 8 o'clock. Of course you're tired. Hey, can I help you with something this morning?
That's an empathy.
That's empathy.
Empathy.
Yes.
That's empathy.
Sympathy じゃなくて
Sympathy, you feel sorry for the person. Like you try to just, dokan in a way, you feel sorry. Ah, you couldn't sleep. Poor you, Yumi. That's sympathy. Okay.
Empathy は
Empathy is like trying to find the cause of what made you.
二人がよくするやつ
Well, I want to understand your feeling at a deeper level.
At a deeper level.
Not just the surface level. Because for you, that's empty. There's no benefit from it. Whereas if I try to understand you empathetically, then both of us can get a win-win result. You feel more supported, and I won't feel upset when you don't finish your task today, right?
Exactly. And this is where this can lead to common understanding of reading between the lines. If I, after all, it does require a little bit of time. So if I, for example, work with you two, and I've worked with Nick for more than 10 years, I know Nick very well. So when Nick comes to work tired or something he's unhappy, I can read between the lines, knowing what could have happened, okay, and guess from there. Because I have a list of things that I have heard from him, so I'm just choosing which of those is that. Whereas with you, I'm working for 1 year, and if I don't understand what your common, living environment and everything you do, then I obviously will probably not be able to read between the lines.
And that causes stress.
And that causes stress. And or I can, Yumi doesn't. She comes to work looking very tired. Maybe she doesn't like our office. Maybe she doesn't like working in us, because I've never actually shown empathy of trying to understand you deeply. And that's what Nick is talking about understanding the person on a deeper level can create an image that can be easily understood at a later stage without communicating. Okay, and that's something that can be the bridge of both our cultures.
I think so. I really think so.
So there you go, guys. If you are having, if your friends are not, if you have friends who are from another countries and you want to establish a deeper relationship, and at the same time try to understand or read between the lines, is first you need to understand the person at a deeper level. That way you can have some kind of list of things that when that friend or that person is not feeling good or something is happening, at least you will have a choices of possibilities that may have caused him or her to feel that way. But without showing empathy, without trying to understand the person and judging just based on your emotions at that time,
That's right.
this can be potentially dangerous in communication and may lead to more alienating. I mean, being more further away,
Creating more distance.
and creating more distance. Yes, actually, that's the word. So, I believe now you understand how to bridge our Japanese culture with another culture. It's by trying to understand the person at first, and then draw conclusions. Possible, right?
And check the internet for the correct phrase. Assumption is the
Mother
of all evils.
Yes.
Maybe.
I think yes. The money was the root of all evil.
Yeah.
Right? So
I'm sure there's this phrase with assumption and evil in there somewhere.
anyway, whatever we said, it's always good.
Yeah.
It's always good to do a little bit of research because our podcast is mostly true. So whatever we said,
That's
it's
right.
probably mostly true.
That's
So,
right. A very good use of an adverb.
Yes. there's-
Mostly.
めっちゃ勉強になったよ。今回ははい大変勉強になりました。
ということで、now you get the idea. Yes. Anyway, I believe our podcasts are usually between 20 to 30 minutes.
Yes.
So this year, this was our fourth podcast. Yes. We wish you like for those who celebrate Christmas, we wish you a Merry Christmas.
Or happy. What do they call it? Happy
Yes,
holidays. Happy holidays.
is the generic term, but I just want to say for people who celebrate Hanukkah, Happy Hanukkah. People who celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas. People who don't celebrate anything, Happy Holidays in general. And we look forward to making some more videos in 2023. Now we're getting better, a little bit better of this zatsudan or just talking without anything, no plan. I think we're getting better at this, Yes. If you think so, please write down your comments and make sure you're subscribed as well. Thank you very much for watching. And from all of us,
Yes, this is us signing off. And,
Signing off. Thank
wishing you happy holidays.
happy holidays and Happy New Year. Bye.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
Bye.